today we are going to be going over an online third strike tier list. Now, we kind of know how the tier lists are for the offline realm of third strike. However, online third strike is a completely different beast. So today we are going to dive in and see who benefits the most. What characters receive the greatest buffs from the online realm. Enjoy. All right, guys. So here we are at the tier list section. And so we're going to be taking this as an online tier list today. So S tier. S tier for offline generally is considered Chun, Yun. That's like, those are kind of the S tier characters in this game, and maybe even only Chun. But I think in this game, as Donka has said, I think the one of the S tier characters in online third strike is undoubtedly Ibuki. Why Ibuki, you ask? So, Ibuki has really good air approach, and trying to deal with kunais is much more difficult online than it is offline. She has fake dash pressure. She can do her like command dash, which is really rough to deal with. And then I think her overall speed is what makes her really difficult to get. Her online like speed is just ridiculous, and it's hard to deal with. You can't react the same as you can offline, and that makes it really tough. So I think Ibuki's definitely S tier. 3 different unreactable overheads. Most of her moves that are unsafe are essentially plus on block online, and her left-right mix-ups are next to impossible to react to. There we go. Donka bringing up exceptionally strong points as to why Ibuki online is definitely an S tier character. The worse the connection, the better the Ibuki. That's just how it goes. I don't make the rules, okay? Okay? So next up in the S tier online, I think is a generally well agreed upon character. Exclamation point, Makoto. That's who is the next S tier online. She is so strong online. Her dash, unreactable. And that's literally all she needs to be really good. Her air approach is crazy strong. The axe kicks are next to impossible to deal with online. So she is incredibly strong online. Undoubtedly an S tier character. I literally refuse to use her online. Dude, she's so good. She's so good. She can form, just like you said, the people that play her online play her in such a scummy way that it is so irritating to deal with, and you know that they aren't getting away with half of that shit offline. You just know they are not getting away with half that shit offline. So undoubtedly Makoto, an S tier character in online third strike. Okay, so next up in the S tier, I think there's only maybe, I don't know. There's 2 to 3 more that I think are contenders for S tier. I will say one that I'm pretty sure on is actually Urian. I think Urian is definitely in contention for S tier. His tackles are much more difficult to deal with online. Unblockables are nearly impossible to get out of. Corner pressure high-lows are impossible to react to. So I think that Urian is definitely an S tier category, and he requires some execution, but his execution doesn't need to be so tight that you can't just get it, not do it online, right? So I think that Urian is undoubtedly an S tier character online. You can't tell me different. I think Urian is kind of the same as Makoto in this situation, where Urian players definitely form bad habits that only work online, and then as soon as they get into the offline realm, once COVID is over, they're going to be in for a very rude awakening. Really, I think there's only, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, there's really only one other character that I would consider putting into the S tier of online third strike. The only other character I'm thinking, I'm going to bounce this off the chat for a second. I honestly think Yang is an S tier online. I think Yang is incredibly strong. Rekka pressure's hard to deal with online. Dive kicks are insanely hard to deal with online. I think that Yang definitely is an S tier character. You know, his whole game is about guessing, really. And so if you have a character that's causing you to guess online, where already your reactions are not nearly as strong, that is a strong ass character. And I can't tell you how daunting it is to play up against a very strong Yang online. Offline is already stress inducing, and then you throw it into the online realm, blood pressure through the roof. I'm also thinking Ken is a pretty strong pick for S tier. Several people have mentioned Ken, and you know what? I think Ken should definitely be in S tier. I agree with this. The reason why I think is Ken's can play a lot more kind of wild and scrambly online, and it works a lot better. And so I think that Ken is definitely a viable S tier contender online. He's already a strong character, but whenever you have people that are just like dashing around, that stuff that doesn't work offline definitely works better online. His pressure becomes better. The only way that he's slightly nerfed is his hit confirms are maybe a smidge more difficult, but even then, he has so many ways that you can hit confirm that don't require precise timing that I think Ken is definitely a legit S tier character online. Chun is not an S tier character online. Dudley is A tier. Okay, I'm feeling like Dudley to me could be A or S tier. So if we think that maybe Dudley is more of an A tier character, we'll get to him shortly. He's still incredibly strong online though. Gets confirms really nerfed too for crouch strong into duck under. Yeah, that's true. His confirms become a little tougher, but his mix-up game becomes stronger. I have seen some people in chat talk about Yun being potentially S tier, but I'll be honest, and we'll start A tier out with this. I think Yun is undoubtedly an A tier character in Street Fighter 3 online. I think that his dive kick definitely becomes stronger. His pressure becomes stronger. The one thing that is nerfed is Ganaijin is tougher to get out usually. Not, you can get into Ganaijin easily, but actually getting optimal combos out of Ganaijin can be really difficult online just because of the lag, the latency. You know, you're doing towards forward into palm, and then your palm doesn't come out, your palm's late, you've literally dropped the combo. While I believe that Yun is probably close to S tier offline, I think that online he gets nerfed just slightly because of the Ganaijin. Akuma, I think, is definitely another character that is in the A tier category. Have you seen, hold up, ding, have you seen how Akuma players play online and then they defend themselves as if they are the gods of neutral, the gods of controlling space and pressure? I refuse. I refuse to believe that shit. Akuma is literally one of the most brain dead characters online. Literally every Akuma and their mother player on Wake Up, Tatsu. Tatsu. Let me dive kick you, and offline, I parry dive kick, I low forward, I win. Online, dive kick, I miss my parry, I eat shit, I die. You cannot tell me different. Akuma is an A tier character online. He's almost borderline S tier. If it wasn't for his shit defense, Akuma would be a, for sure, A tier character, or S tier character online. Ding! All right. You know who I think is actually A tier online, depending on the, the connection, is Elena. Elena is so freaking good online. She's undoubtedly going to A tier. So A tier Elena online. In my opinion, I think that Elaine is probably C tier offline, and she literally jumps 2 spots because EX overhead is unreactable. Her Kara throw is unreactable. You will never be able to tech that shit. Never, ever, ever. So tech throws, the Kara throws amazing. Her overheads are amazing. Her pokes become godlike. That's all they need. Dudley, we kind of touched on Dudley a little bit earlier. Dudley definitely an A tier character. His high-low mix-ups become incredibly strong. We've got Dart Shot into super becomes a super threat, and short super. A lot of his tool set becomes stronger online. There's maybe 1 or 2 slight nerfs that were mentioned earlier, like crouch strong, Dart Shot, or crouch strong, duck under into super, stuff like that. So I think Dudley is definitely like in the A tier category. He probably stays about the same really because he loses some aspects of his game, but he gains others, you know? I think the last person that we could probably put in A tier would be Ryu. I think Ryu is a reasonable pick. There's maybe a slight caveat to this, and the caveat is going to be if you use Denjin. If you're using SA1 or SA2, probably down in B, just because those don't really get buffed much, and you know, you can't just throw those out or throw setups out. It doesn't require you to parry to get out of those situations. However, with Denjin, Ryu is in that sweet A spot for sure, 100%. Remy's the only other one that I'm thinking gets a huge boost. Booms become very difficult to deal with, very difficult to parry, very difficult to get around. Dive kicks become much more difficult to get around. He still bleeds though really hard. And so I think that, I feel like Remy's probably a solid B tier. I don't think it's so hard that it becomes impossible of a matchup, but I do think it becomes much more difficult. I think Remy's a solid B tier. We're going to put Chun as a solid B tier in online Third Strike. So the main reason why I believe that Chun is not OP online is because yes, she still has her neutral that's strong, but she's still, one of her strongest assets is her hit confirms. So if you take away her hit confirms, which is literally what makes her so strong, then that's taking away a crucial part of her game and thus makes her weaker. You can't reliably hit confirm online. Of course, if the connection is even worse, kiss that shit goodbye. It's like you better hope you whiff punish or you guess correctly on a rip. You can't play her defensively. It's harder to play defensive online because your reactions are nerfed. So I think B tier is a reliable tier for her. She's probably at the top of B, so we can see here. We'll throw, it's not even ordered in these lists, but we'll throw her at the top of B. She could almost be A, but she's still, it's tough. I think Necro is definitely a character that probably stays around the B tier range. Has some kind of tricky to block overheads. He can kind of do more shenanigans. Dive kick pressure is a little bit stronger, but it's not nearly as deadly as like the other dive kick characters that we've mentioned, such as Yang, Yun, Akuma. So I think Necro definitely in B tier. Not a terrible character to go against, but can still cause you some issues and has some abusable things online. I see some people in the chat rocking Oro. Oro definitely a solid B tier. He still doesn't really have good neutral, which is in his, you know, in his repertoire really. But if you get your opponent into the unblockables, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough to get out of. Trying to time your unblockables correctly is going to be difficult. So I would say Oro's a solid B tier. I think Oro and Necro are both in this tier anyways, I feel like, for me personally. Maybe, no, I think they're both B tier. I think offline they're B tier. Online, they stay in the B tier realm. That's a pretty good mid-tier list. I don't even know who this character is. Who's this character? Y'all see this character right here? Who is this? Is this Gil? Is this Gil in like a detective lady form? I think starting in C tier, I think Alex is a pretty clear C tier character. He has still okay neutral. It's not great. He doesn't have overly crazy shenanigans either. A lot of like the boots, like boot stomp, that's maybe his one shenanigan thing that can be a little tricky to deal with online. The EX elbows are strong, but I will say I don't feel they're any more difficult to punish if you have a character that can super on reaction. Like if I'm playing Ken and an Alex EX, you know, elbows me, right? Like he goes, wow. I can usually have enough time to think of my punish and then execute my punish. I think that 12, we'll go with 12 next. I think 12 does get a slight buff being online. He's still such a bad character though. It is a little bit more difficult to deal with his online shenanigans. So, you know, it's It's tough to deal with like the jump ins, the jump dash ins, like the air dashes. There's a lot of things that I think are difficult to deal with on 12, but it doesn't catapult him up the tier list. He's still so bad. His neutral is still one of the worst in the game. And it's just, he's an overall really bad character. Buff with his jump roundhouse mix-ups, yeah. He's still, like, he can still contend a little bit, but there's just, online doesn't make up for his shitty neutral. I think online just keeps his neutral in check, and then it's just like, okay, this neutral is trash, you know. You can't really do much past that. You can do his online shenanigans a little bit, but you have to be so consistent with it as far as it needs to land consistently, and it's not going to land consistently. I think that Q could definitely vie for C tier. I think out of the three that were left between Q, Chun, and Hugo, I think Q is the only one that could potentially contend for C tier at this point. The only reason why I think that is I think dash punches become better online. If he gets his taunts up, it is literally fighting a wall, and it's still tough because he can control the pace, but he's still not a good character. But dash punches, getting that little bit of buff, puts him away from at least the trash characters of online Third Strike. Rounding this out, Hugo, to me, D tier character online. This character gets significantly worse online. The thing is you can think about the strong players that play their characters, but it doesn't change how the character's movesets and their tool set works online. So I think that even though Sandy Bags is pretty legit, Big Nasty out of Houston's legit, and I've seen strong players who pick Hugo and do well, someone like, you know, Exodus, really strong, obviously, like the one time he played Hugo, incredibly strong in our tournament. So I think that Hugo, being as slow as he is, not really having the ability to skip neutral, and a lot of these characters can just do what they want against him, and like Donka said, he has to try to parry to get out of those situations. I think Hugo is definitely a D ranked character. Last, but certainly not least, we have Chun. Chun's in D tier. If there was an E tier, Chun would go there. The only thing that Chun really has going for him, in my opinion, is the fake out tackle. I think if you can play him really fast and scrambly, he does become a little bit stronger online. But otherwise, Chun is such a bad character, and online does not help him a single bit. So everybody, today we went ahead and did an online Third Strike tier list. I hope everybody enjoyed the content. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you did enjoy, and we will see y'all next time. So, to stay.